voices in my head. City lights blind my plane, I smile instinct. I've been dancing with my shadow, sipping on a grape. Every promise that I made, I ain't fixed it yet. I'm fragile, but I move like I'm bulletproof. Broken prayers in my chest, still I'm telling too. I was lost in the rhythm of a lonely road. Tell your love by my soul, now I'm coming home. When the world gets colder, I feel fire. But my feet are shaking, you lift.
This program is sponsored by www.rejecomandala.com. Looking for a way to earn extra income from home? This might be exactly what you've been waiting for. Simply click on the link, follow the prompting, watch the webinar, add your email address, and let's do this together. Your future self will definitely thank you. Digital business. Take a step and change your life. Hello, 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 hello. Good morning, ladies from the UK.
Good morning.
Good morning, Regina.
Is it too early? You don't want to talk?
It is early.
It is early, right? I totally understand you. While it's a good evening from my side, it's probably around 5:15 p.m. where I'm streaming live from. And I think you guys are in the morning about 8:15, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken. Anyway, welcome, welcome, and welcome. We are back again for yet another episode of Culture, Assimilation, Integration, and Identity. And today we are presenting a very interesting topic, Diaspora Dilemma. But before we get into the topic, let's just go around the panel. We'll introduce ourselves. My name, of course, I'm Rujeko. Based here in Melbourne, Australia. I am a mom of two, a registered nurse, and a very growing, excited digital business entrepreneur. Bridget, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bridget. I'm based here in the UK. I'm a mom of one. I am a private practice therapist and a therapeutic coach. And yeah, that's it for now.
Thank you, Bridget and Sandra.
Good morning, all. My name is Sandra Francisco. So I am a social worker, practice educator. I also develop my own direct work tools. I am a mother of four, and I am a grandma. Streaming from the UK.
Look at you, as young as you are, grandma.
I am a proud grandma.
Beautiful, beautiful. Ladies, I especially want to thank you very much for agreeing to tune in at this time, early hours on a Friday morning. And I know Friday morning is not easy, especially if you're working full time Monday to Friday. I always say my Friday brain is the worst brain because I'm totally tired and I'm exhausted. So really, I just want to commend you for agreeing. I also want to say welcome to all our audience who are tuning in live or are going to be tuning in live. Thank you. If you are, would really, really love to hear from you. So if you could just drop a comment from whichever live you're watching from, drop a comment. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you are a YouTuber, please comment, like, share, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Okay. So the topic that we have today is an interesting topic. I think all of us, I'm not sure about Sandra, but but it's okay. You'll speak for yourself. You'll speak for yourself. But I think if there's any one dilemma that we've ever faced, especially, as diasporians, is that dilemma of where do we actually exist? Where do we actually belong? At what point of our life do we say, okay, we belong in diaspora, or okay, actually, no, we actually belong back home? It's a dilemma. And there's something very interesting I came across actually yesterday as I was scrolling down, and somebody actually posted a video, and she was Kenyan, and she said, what did she say? She said something very interesting. She said, let's not forget that we we came here in order to change where we come from. And I'm thinking, okay, right. It is true, but it comes with question marks. It really does come with question marks. I have something, a little read that I would like to share with you before we go into the discussion. And it says, the longer you stay in the diaspora, the heavier the chains become. Many left with a simple plan: work a few years, achieve one or two goals, then you return home. But years turn into decades, and the dream of return fades in the background. The money earned often stretches only enough to live here in the diaspora. You've got rent, bills, taxes, you've got transport. Little remains to build the dreams waiting back home to the life that we wanted to change. Running water, reliable electricity, smooth roads, all the working systems seem like heaven compared to what we left behind. Comfort, question mark, becomes addictive. You've got the credit cards, you've got the mortgages, you've got the car loans that dig deeper with time. Living becomes harder when you own, or when you're actually now flowing in the system. Children grow up, foreign schools, spouses build careers, and roots sink into foreign soils. The thought of uprooting feels impossible. Every year away makes home feel more distant. Skills, networks, and even identity shift until the return feels like you're actually going to be starting all over again. Promotions, pay rises, titles, they all become a dangling hope. Yet beneath the shine, many realize they are climbing a ladder that never touches the ground they once dreamed of. Back home, the structures may not support the life they've grown or are used to. The fear of losing everything keeps them bound to a life they no longer love but cannot live. And so the diaspora swallows dreams. It offers comfort, but at the cost of freedom? That's a question mark for me. It gives structure, but steals time. It promises heaven, yet often delivers a gated cage. Remember this: the diaspora is not just a place, ooh, it's a system. And once you are hooked, it takes courage, clarity, and sacrifice a break free and return to the soil that first called your home. I came across this, and it really brought a lot of questions in my mind. Of course, I grew up in Harare, and I left Harare when I was at the age of 19. To be honest, at that time, 19, I was coming from a life where everything had changed. In terms of family, I'd lost my parents. A lot had changed in such a short space of time. And at that time, the dream is for everybody to work abroad. So, really, when I left Harare, I didn't have a plan. I was a teenager in pain. I didn't have a goal. All I knew that is I needed to work for my siblings, my brothers. That's all. I didn't have a plan of returning home. I had an idea that I needed to make things better where I'd come from. I need to take my brothers to school. We need to find a solid place, a solid home where we call our own because our parents, are no longer. And that was all that was there. Did I come with a plan to, you know, live here in diaspora forever, to have a mortgage, to get married, to have children? No. I was just a young girl who's 19, who was in a lot of pain and knew that I needed to help my family back home. But you can imagine as the years, went by, of course, the focus becomes on bills and looking after my siblings and paying bills where I am. 1 year turns into 2 years, 2 years turns into 5 years. And there's a lot of pressure because you then see that a lot of people who have come, probably from Harare or from Zimbabwe with a solid plan, they are in a place where they're actually building and they're making progress. And then again, there's that dilemma of some have come and they're actually making progress where they are. So they're buying cars, they're building houses, and you're in this middle place where you're trying to find where you belong. And it's not easy because it's like trying to live two lives. So I've got a life that I need to live for my family back home, but I've got a life that I need to live for myself here, where I am. But guess what? I only get one paycheck. And that's been live. Fast forward, I've been in the diaspora for over 20 years now. And the dilemma, is it still there? I don't know. Probably that's a question I can answer towards the end. But before we go deeper into it, let us go around the panel and let us share our experiences as well. Diaspora dilemma. I'll take it to Bridget. Bridget, what are your sentiments to this?
Okay. Well, thank you, Rejeko, and thank you for sharing your personal story um, and the challenges that you face. And I can relate, I guess, to a point of what you said. For me, the dilemma, that uh, conflict, I guess, or challenge that coming to England brought for me is the meaning of home. Um, I came here at the age of 21. So, like you, I can relate to not having a plan. I mean, 21, all I knew is I was going to England to improve things, like you, better my life and better the life of those that I've left behind. That was the general consensus. That was general idea. But to have a plan of some kind, I didn't have one. I didn't know one. And for years, I lived in this country with the idea that home is Zimbabwe. Because, like you, I grew up in Zimbabwe. And so that idea of living here, almost, I think for a number of years, I almost didn't allow myself to settle, if that makes sense. It's like I had to be doing something related to making
I
sure.
am with you 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I was not allowed to feel comfortable here. I was not allowed to get too comfortable. Otherwise, I'd forget that, remember, there is home. Um, and so the years go by, and I build a life. I've built a life here. I've built a career here. I've built roots here. And I think there is a debt. There's a kind of a debt that I felt, um, that comes with that idea that home. When people say, "Oh, have you been home lately?" It's it brings that kind of feeling of, well, okay, oh, there is still that home, so I have a debt to that home. I have something that I
Mm,
promised to that place that is called home. There's something
mm,
that, it's like having an a child whose umbilical cord has not been cut off. It's like you're still connected to that place. You still owe that place something. You still have to, there's something that you're supposed to do for that place. And so it's that split between where home is and what home is. So I suppose people in diaspora like me I felt that pressure of, uh, being too African initially to for this to be home, and then being here long enough to be now too I'm British enough to be British.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's the whole dilemma of being traditional within the family, and then in the workplace and out in society, you're adaptable in the wider society, loyal to your heritage while embracing a new culture. So all those things for me have to do with what do I call home.
Mm.
And for me, because I've been here over 25 years.
Mm.
I've been here longer than I lived in Zimbabwe.
Mhm.
So in answering the question
Right.
of where home is, I've had to make the decision. I have a child
Mm.
here. I've made roots here. I feel safe here. I belong
Mm.
here.
Mm.
Um, I have adapted, and I said I've experienced assimilation,
Mm.
where I've not lost myself. I've actually uh, bloomed here. I've allowed
Mhm.
myself to bloom.
Mhm.
But must be honest, I still have to deal with that idea of a debt of some
Mm.
kind,
Mm.
to Zimbabwe or to the nation that I came from.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm. Mm.
Especially with the situation that Zimbabwe is in.
Mm.
I think there'll be very few people who don't feel some kind of, you know, how can we help? How can we
Mm.
improve uh, our country, which served us so well,
Mhm.
before we came here, as a
Mm.
country that enabled us to, that, empowered us with education, empowered us with something that allowed us to come here and thrive. So it gave us a
Mm.
seed that we were allowed to, enabled us to come here and thrive. So there is a kind of a subtle subconscious debt, I think. But yeah,
Mm.
that's
Mm. Oh my God, I 100% share your sentiments. And exactly how you said it is also how I feel. But I think at the end of the day, we need to, I don't know, come up with some sense of not so much as conclusion, but I don't know the right word I can give it, but to, yeah, to make sense out of everything, and at the end of the day decide, who we are, and where do we actually belong, because like you say, here we are, if it's 20, 30 years on down the track, and there's still some kind of guilt where you feel like you have a debt, you owe to where we come from. And actually I did find that perfect sentence I came across yesterday. The lady said, we left home to change home and not to forget home. Hmm. We left home to change home and not to forget home. And so, what she was saying is, as we are living in the diaspora, we are now forgetting where we come from. So, again, I don't want it to make it more um, confusing, or to add sorrows to what we already feel, or to add more pains, or to add more guilt. But it's again another article that I came across today. I'm like, oh my God, why am I reading these things? And it's a Canadian, they're African. I don't know what country they came from, but they are a resident in Canada. And the heading was titled, Canada is now deporting even residents back home, has been here for more than 30 odd years. And I'm like, whoa, what is going on? Like, obviously, there was some sort of crime there if we would like to investigate. But who knows? I don't know the story. It's just a heading I came across. And it reminded me of the situation that happened in South Africa, where a lot of Africans who were not based from South Africa were, really, they were chased out of South Africa, you know. So it's again, it's like you are made to feel uncomfortable. You are sitting in this place and you're constantly being reminded that you're not from here, you know. But
Mm.
let's listen to Sandra. Sandra, what are your sentiments, or share your story as well?
First of all, I would like to say that your story, ladies, are very powerful. It's like there are parts that resemble with mine, yeah, but it's very powerful. When I first came to the UK, I was 21, and I came to follow a dream. So it was different from you too. So for
Yeah.
me, I used to be a hairdresser. I had my own salon
Oh,
at age
wow.
21. I had my own house back home. So I was stable. But it was that curiosity, that just to understand more about African hair. And I wanted to, it's like kind of like back home, you hear a lot of things about in the UK, you learn more, you can develop this and that. So I came to this country with the dream of going and develop myself, um, learn new techniques. And I came with a return ticket for 3 months.
Oh,
So
wow.
3 months became 26 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I came with a 3 months ticket, and I was like, okay, I'll come. I'll just do what I need to do, and I'll return. But then, as I stayed, so I would say that
Mhm.
life happened. So I
Mm,
stayed, I got married, my kids were born in here, and yeah, my life changed. So after becoming a
mm,
mom, I started to reevaluate of my whole situation. Now that I'm a mother, do I really want to be a hairdresser forever? And then I just went back to education and did my whole higher education in this country. So would I say that I look at the UK and say that I consider it home? I would not say that I consider UK as home because I
mm,
always feel homesick. So I was born and raised in Portugal, so home for me is Portugal. So I feel very comfortable living in the UK. I love living in here, and I'm very grateful for all the opportunities that it was given to me. But for me, home is Portugal, is where I was born, is where every little things, like when I look at my childhood and I think about um, simple things like just going, next door to eat hot bread. I wouldn't have that experience in here, or just staying out and talking to my friends without that worry that something is going to happen. So it's just like the whole environment is completely different. Yes, I do work in here. I try to better my life as much as I can, but at the back of my head is always that thought that I am not from here.
mm,
Um, Whatever place that I go, yes,
mm,
people will accept me. They will treat me well, but
mm,
I'm reminded that you're not belonging in here. You're not part of
mm,
us. So
mm,
it starts with your status in here.
mm,
I don't need to have any other extra documents to be in here to prove my state, but at the same time, I am required to complete the status to say like my residence this, my resident that. Whereas in my country, I work freely. Okay, there's no thoughts about me proving who I am. Being in here is like your accent, where you're from. So
I know.
when I'm in Portugal, as I speak, and people will understand, and no one is going to say that you have an accent because I can speak the same language as them. I eat the same foods. I hear the same music, although that my parents came from Africa, but I grew up there. So it's kind of like there's less explanation there for me than in here. And just to reply to your question, will I feel part of belonging in this country? Mm, I would say that I integrate it. I I am living in here comfortably. I don't have worries, but home for me is Portugal. It's not UK.
Mm, 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 mm,
And this is where, like, very often I need to go back home. For instance, my children from very young age up to now, we always travel. So when they were off from school, now they are older, it's different. But when they were young, I always took them 6 weeks back home because I wanted them to learn about the culture. I wanted them to learn the language, to learn how do we live. And I always told them that this is where you're coming from. This is how we act, our expectations, how we should behave. Although that we live in the UK, you were born in here, but this is not home. And
mm,
like you said, there are, you never know when you're going to be asked to leave the country. And I
mm,
believe like anyone who are not from the UK, you can be here 10, 50 years, 100 years. And
mm,
there's always that fear that you might be asked to leave one day.
mm,
If we think about the Windrush, there were people that they were here for a very long time and they were asked abrupt just to leave the country. So it can happen to any of us, and that's the reality that we need to have at the back of our minds.
mm. I like that. You know, Sandra is no dilly dally between two places. Clear cut, straight to the point.
Yeah,
And yeah, yeah.
because that's exactly how I feel. And like I said,
Mm,
I love living in the UK. I love like the calmness, that everything that is offered in here. I'm a professional. I love everything, but
mm,
I'm also conscious that this is not my country. There will be a day that they probably ask me, Sandra, you need to return, and
mm.
I will go because
Gladly just stand up and go.
yeah, because that's not my country. And I am
Mm.
very clear about that. And when people say
Wow.
yeah, home is where you live, I would say yes, home is where I live to a certain extent because every day I wake up, I'll go to work and I do my daily tasks in here in this country. But the reality is, I always feel homesick. The
Mm,
reality is, like I said, little things. So just the weekend, like having family around, just going from one door to another one. Those things, you will never get it if you're not in your country. Even
mm,
it doesn't matter. Yeah, we do leave our country because of financial issues, or there's lots of, things that make us leave our country. But I believe that it's always important to remember that yes, I'm contributing to this country. I'm living in this country. I'm very happy. All my children, they were born in here. But at the same time, I'm very conscious that there is no sense of belonging because at any time I could be asked to leave.
mm, mm. I like that. You know, when we were talking last time about identity, the identity dilemma, of where do our kids belong, I liked how we made it so cut and clear that their identity is this new identity. We said, I don't know how we put it, but we said it's accepting that they have this new identity where they have a heritage, but they actually belong to that society in which they have grown up to. That's their new identity. And I think it works in a similar way. Just hearing you, Sandra, I think the diaspora dilemma, um, it kind of like works in a similar way, but the question is how many of us actually accept the way you have accepted it so clearly that look, I know that I don't belong here. And should I be asked to up and go at any time, I'm ready to go packing with my bags. And you've made it so clear that home is where you come from. You've made it so clear. Now, the reason why I say for some of us it's not so clear is because of maybe the economic dilemmas we faced when we were here. And I'm talking in terms of us not having the opportunity to travel back home and reconnect with the soil as we would have loved to. you know
Mm.
why? Because maybe there's been, immigration issues. Economically, it's just, for some of us, it just has not happened as quick as it should have. And before you know it, you have a family, and it's very difficult, if you're not economically empowered to make those trips often back home. And of course, there comes again that issue of, families, especially where I come from. Families have split. Like, I remember once upon a time, I would say about a good 5 years back, 6 years back, I had absolutely nobody to go back home to. All my immediate family members were all over the world. No one was in Zimbabwe at that time. My siblings were not in Zimbabwe. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins, So I really, really, I had no connection to go back to. So it was not prioritized for me to go back because there was just no connection to go back to. So there are different reasons why perhaps some people may not, you know f- be feel that connection, and feel and have that clear cut understanding of exactly where they belong, especially moving forward. We've aged, we've got children here, and if we are asked, let's pack our bags and let's go back, we are probably not ready. We've probably not organized ourselves in that way because of these different situations that
Mm.
I've just mentioned. I don't know, Bridget, what are your sentiments at this point?
I think I, thank you again, Sandra, for just giving us a different perspective, and I'll say it's different because we must honor the difference in experience. So, Rujeko and I come from a country that has been Zimbabwe is nothing like what it was when we were growing up. And in terms of having a home to go back to, many of us don't have that. There's been a lot of people leave Zimbabwe. There's been a lot of losses as well, and displacement. So we have to acknowledge that there's a difference. The beauty of your story is that the country that you call home is within Europe.
Mm.
So all you've done is like if I was in, it's like the Zimbabweans who went to South Africa.
Mm,
It's Africa in Africa, yeah. So they just moved from one African country to another. What we did is move from one continent to another. A total, just different, huge difference, a big gap as well between the two. So thinking about going back is not as simple and easy for us because it means really crossing continents to go back. Um, but for you, if you think about, you're going back to just you're just moving to simply to another European country, and it doesn't take you that long, I would say, to get to where you're going. You know,
2 hours. 2 hours, 40
this is what
minutes.
I'm saying. So
it's not even expensive.
I
That's
could
why I
actually
said
go in the
we
morning.
need to be economically empowered before we
Very,
think of buying tickets for our family. Anyway.
very. It's huge. So when you think about going home, you could easily go home in the morning and come back in the evening. I
Oh,
can't do
yes.
that.
Yeah.
I can't do that. So we have to look at the realistic differences with you. You grew up in Europe. Home for you is Europe. It's just another Europe, a different European country. But for us, home was Africa. And it's a different continent, a different culture, a different whole different altogether. I totally understand that Portugal and England are different, but they're Europe.
Mm.
There is a similarity in terms of the Europe styles and Europe systems. There is a kind of a similarity. For Africa, Africa is very similar in Africa. The African countries are very similar. So I think that's a huge difference that we have that separates us in our experiences. and we have to honor that. So when I think of home, home for me has become England. But I totally hear what you're saying, that there is that day, if one day they should wake up and decide, you need to go back home. The reality is there is an ethical dilemma there, in that what is it that I would call home there? Because it's really family at the end of the day. It's really the people that I knew. It's really the connections that I have that would call it home. And if those connections are no longer there, what is it that I'm going back to? It's the same as starting all over again. It's the same as just, me going to China, for example. It's a whole start.
Mm.
It's a new start. It's like going back to Zimbabwe right now is a totally different system, a new system for me, a new culture to get used to, a new, just a whole new way of living. So,
I get, yeah. I guess that the difference between us is because I am the product of my parents migrating. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like if I am going to speak to my parents about
Mm-hmm.
having this conversation, they will possibly have the same response as two of you.
yeah.
But for me, I am the production of
Mm-hmm.
what they built in Europe. So that's why my experience is completely different because it's like
Mm-hmm.
I migrated to different countries, like you said, in the Europe to follow a dream. That was my curiosity. It wasn't like I couldn't do it in Portugal. It was like I just wanted to see, okay, what is another side of the world? Yeah. But for my parents, it's exactly will be the same description as the two of you because they needed to make it. So if they have to go back to Africa now, what are they going back to? For example, my mom, she arrived in Portugal when she was 10. She's 60 something now. So it's like the Africa that she left is not what she's going to find. She wouldn't
Has
have
she
a
ever been
home.
back though? Has she ever been back
No,
at all? There you
not
go.
at all. Not at all.
Mm.
She came when she was 10 with the promise that they're going to allow her to go to school, but that never happened. So
Um,
yeah,
mm,
she has a different story from my story. Possibly it will be something similar to you too. But for
mm,
me, like I said, I am a product because my parents they came to Europe. I was born in Europe. So this is why I call home because this is all I know. And my experience of migrating is completely different because it's like I wasn't forced to migrate. It was something that I did it out of curiosity because if I wanted to stay back home, I would have an okay life. It wouldn't, maybe would I be a social worker? I don't know, but there is possibilities there for me because I finished my education there. So it was like everything was there for me if I wanted to do it. But I just made the choice of coming to a different country just to see what is on the other side. But again, like I said, it's different because I wouldn't have all these resentments. I wouldn't be looking at, oh, I've lost this, I have lost that. There's war. Yes, there is financial constraints, but it's something that you can live with. It's not something that is so difficult that I needed to move abroad, if it makes sense. So it's kind of like the barriers that you two experience is completely different. Like me going home let's say every 6 months or once a year is something that I can do it easily. And I'll go back to my family because most of my family they are there. I have some here in the UK, but most of my family they are in Portugal.
mm,
So there is something that I'm going back to. Although
mm,
I don't have a home that I can call my own home in Portugal, but I can go to family. I can spend time with family and then come back.
mm, mm, mm. I mean, don't get it wrong. Like, even though, as Bridget has put it, that we've moved, continents, and we faced all these barriers from just trying to have a clear decision of exactly, I guess try to wiggle ourselves out of this dilemma, so to speak. We do have Zimbabweans that are cut and clear like you. you know, who moved here with a goal, attained the goal, right? And probably would have overstayed 1 or 2 years above their goal, but continue to make it very categorically clear that they are going back where they've come from, and they're actually building, where they have come from. So we do have such who are very, who have very, who they've made up their minds, and this is who they are, this is where they belong, and this is what they're doing here. They've given themselves a timeline. But the majority of us, I would really say, I think we fall into this constant, dilemma of belonging, and then we end up feeling guilty, and it then becomes an ongoing debate. But Bridget, I don't know, had you finished what you wanted to share? Because I think you were on your way there. You were
Mm.
working yourself up to something there.
Well, I think thank you, Sandra, again for just I suppose it just added to what I was saying, and clarified that difference. That yeah, for you it's very easy. It was a very easy transition to just come. It was a decision that was very easy for you. But for us, there were circumstances that were pushing us really to look for greener pastures, to explore. It was a need, really. For many of us, it was a need
Mm,
that we needed to do something,
mm,
uh, and that's the reality. So, with that in mind, that need is part of what I think for some of us who have settled here and have made this home and are happy to call this home and don't have that drive to go back or that drive to do anything, it's made it, um, that's where the guilt, that's where the guilt comes in. Is
mm,
now I've decided that this is home. I've chosen that this is home. It's
mm,
almost like you have to give yourself permission, really. You have to give yourself
mm.
permission. So I'm
To
allowed
just
to choose.
rest. To
I'm
just
allowed to choose
rest.
home.
Girl, just
I'm
accept
allowed
it.
to
Just
choose.
rest.
Really. I'm allowed to choose. I am actually allowed to choose where I
Yeah.
call home, you
Mm,
know? And I think, you know, yes, I've heard of countries like you talked about people, sending people back home, but we have to, those are extremes, Most countries are humane. Most countries have a level of ethical reasoning to understand that when somebody has built roots somewhere, that's home now. That's their roots. Like for my daughter, like you, who was born in this country, where would you send her to home apart from this country? Where would home be,
mm,
Rujeko, for your kids? What other
mm,
home do they know other than?
mm,
Mm.
It's the same as you, Sandra.
mm,
So with those ties, it makes sense for some of us who, uh, because we have our children here. These our children. My child is my home. My
mm, mm.
my people who are here are
Yeah.
part of what I call home.
Mm,
So it doesn't make sense for me to try and sort of be holding this picture in my head that I held at 21, which no longer it doesn't make sense to me at my
mm,
age to hold that
mm,
picture. So this is part
mm.
of assimilation. This is part of progression. This is part of
Come
development.
on now.
To
Come on,
say,
girl.
yes, this is how it
Yeah.
was. This
Yeah.
has become home. This has
Mm,
become home,
mm,
and I accept that.
mhm,
I am accepting that. And I'm glad that, just talking about this has helped me to see that, actually, I'm going to give myself permission to let go of the guilt because I don't owe
mm,
anyone anything, actually.
mm,
I don't owe
mm,
anyone. If I have a desire to help my country because I can, and there are things that I can do to support that country, I do have a love for Zimbabwe. Don't get me wrong. I love Zimbabwe.
mm,
I have a love for Zimbabwe. And I love Zimbabwe because Zimbabwe gave me so much. So
mm,
if I have the opportunity to serve Zimbabwe and give back to Zimbabwe, absolutely, I would love to be able to do it, but not out of guilt. It's really out of this is my heart. This is what
mm,
I'm about. This is what I choose to do. And from that place, I can certainly do something. But I'm giving myself permission to let go of the guilt.
Mm, mm, I love that. I've really enjoyed this conversation, ladies. I really do. I like how there are clear-cut differences, from all of us, from the both of us. And I think, Bridget, you've made your decisive decision, and Sandra, there are other people as well that fall into your box. I don't think there's actually a conclusion that we can actually give to this diaspora dilemma. I think it's something that will be ongoing. The only question that I would actually leave, is, just from what Sandra explained, the difference between her and her parents' generation. I guess the only question I can leave is that, is this going to be still a question that from us, the third and the fourth generation, will be facing? you know are they finally, or will they ever be just accepted as who they are in their communities, when they grow up and they become to be who they are, when they are the Sandras of tomorrow? How will the communities they are in accept who they are? Do they constantly have to be going back into this dilemma of identity, dilemma of belonging, dilemma of, where should they live and where should they build? And it's, I guess that's the only question that I can leave, because we don't know tomorrow.
Mm.
We don't know tomorrow. Any conclusions that you have for us, Sandra?
I guess for the generations after me, I think it will be different, taken from what you said, because it's like, for me it's like, I'm already accepting that, okay, this is home for me, this is who I am. So I'm not seeing myself as an African person, I'm seeing myself as a Black European woman. So for my children, for my grandchildren, it will be different, because it's like it will be more homely for them, because it's all they know. Like me, all I know is Europe. I've never experienced going to Africa, although that I
Mm,
really want to go there. I want to experience my roots. But for them, it will be even much, much easier. It's like the new, I would say, group, the new, I don't, it wouldn't be the same as us, because
mm,
all they know is Europe. That's all.
mm,
It's the product of migration,
mm,
because you
mm,
can't ask someone, like you said, to go back to their country because they belong here.
mm, 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 mm,
All they know, it's all they've been exposed to. Like for me, I only been exposed to Europe. It's all I
mm,
know. So
mm,
it's not my fault that, if when people look at me and say, "But why don't you classify yourself as an African?" What am I going to say about Africa? I've never been to Africa. I can't speak the dialect. I understand the dialect, but for me to speak, you laugh about. So it's kind of like I'll have some highlights of the culture, but not 100%. And I think as we having children, the children of our children, and so on, is going to be missed. They are missing those things that our parents did not pass to us.
mm,
So I have
mm.
missed things. My children are missing more, and their children will miss a lot more.
Mm, 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 mm. And just taking from what you've said, Sandra, like you say, you have accepted who you are, in where you are. And like I say, it's those communities. It's the question is, in the third and fourth generations, just like what they are doing now, they still question you, they still question your identity. And it's somehow the acceptance of us, they it to them, and I'm talking about our communities and societies in the diaspora, it has come with them being very cautious about it, about accepting us, and it's very uneven. You
I think
know, it's
I believe that you will get to the point that people will not look at that, because in my generation, I am not thinking, like I said in my on the
mm,
previous, it's like I never thought about where do I belong. Um, am I too Black? Am I too European? Until I start to have those conversations. So it's not part of my everyday life. So
okay.
other generations, it's just like we were just born in here. We are just,
Mm,
our every day. This is what we don't even need to adapt because this is what we're exposed to. So our
mm,
experience is going to be completely different from our parents.
mm, 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 mm,
And I believe that as generation moves on, people will accept it more and they will talk less about where you're coming from because it wouldn't be part of the conversation. It might be like, yeah, my parents are from this, my roots, but it wouldn't be exactly for us to explain where do we belong, where we're coming from, because it's going to be like my mother was already like my children. They'll say my mother is Portuguese. I was born and raised in the UK, so it's part of Europe. So
mm,
it's
mhm. Bridget, any last sentiments?
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Sandra. I just appreciate listening to you because it really helps me
Mm,
to gauge
okay.
my daughter and her experiences. So it's I appreciate you sharing. The
mm,
thing I'll say is I think the biggest lesson has been in all this people moving from country to country is the idea of difference. One of the things that we've had to learn, the world has had to learn, is to accept difference. So moving around, emigrating, living in another country has really been for me the experience of embracing difference and accepting difference. And this is a difference. So I have made a different choice from other people who stayed in Zimbabwe and chosen to live in their original countries. So it's a difference by choice. So, but I'm free. I am free to make those choices. I am free to make those decisions that make me different from other people. So, in comparison to another who was my age, who stayed, remained in Zimbabwe, I am I belong in the UK now. I live in the UK. This is my home now. They've chosen to live where they are, and they have the freedom to do that. So do I have the freedom to choose this life that I've chosen. And I think that's the main thing is freedom of choice. We are free to choose our differences. But I have to accept that. So rather than living in guilt for the choice that I made, I choose to deal with the guilt and let go of it. But no, because I have a right. I'm free to choose where I live, where who I am, what I become. That's my choice. So I think, and in terms of people asking, where do you belong? Who are you? Whatever. I think, at the end of the day, each and every person must accept their choice and their freedom to be different. So you can choose your identity. You can choose who you become. You can choose what you become. It is your choice. We are free. The beauty of this world is it's given us that liberty to travel from here, there, and everywhere. In the next 10 years, you could be in India and choose to become Indian and have Indian residency and whatever. That's your choice. You are free to do that. Should you be chastised for making that choice? Does can someone else be uncomfortable and uh, you know it could ruffle their feathers of why you've chosen? Absolutely. There will always be someone who doesn't understand your choice. There will always be someone who doesn't agree with your choice, but you have the freedom to make that choice. You have the freedom to live in that choice and accept yourself. I think that's the main thing. Accept yourself in the choice that you've made and accept the choices that you've made and live with it without guilt. And that's what I think.
Thank you so much, Bridget. Ladies, it's been a very, very informative, insightful conversation we've had today on the Diaspora Dilemma. I think we'll end it here today. And for those of you who would like to participate in our program, please stay tuned. We'll be back again in a fortnight with another interesting topic of culture, assimilation, integration, and identity. For now, have a blessed weekend. Bye.